According to a study by Glassnode, the supply of Bitcoin held by long-term holders is once again going up and to the right. We typically see this during what's called accumulation zones, where the prices then become more palatable to the long-term investors. And what we see is accumulation by whales or long-term holders, hodlers, if you will. We saw something similar happen throughout 2018. This was this aggressive U-turn of long-term holders actually accumulating coins. And we're seeing the exact same thing happen now. We see that we're about maybe 40% through, retracing this amount of supply held by long-term holders that really started decreasing aggressively as Bitcoin crossed that 10K threshold earlier this year. Now, what's interesting to denote here is that if we're, about the 40% retracement mark, that would mean that we were about where Bitcoin is sort of ebbing and flowing around 7K. Now, what we do know is that the ultimate low of the previous bear cycle actually happened after this capitulation down from 6K all the way down to just about $3,000 US per coin. Now, this might indicate, obviously, if we're at the exact same place in this accumulation cycle, and this is the only metric we're taking into account, that maybe we are stabilizing, but there is yet another sort of capitulation candle at which we see the actual ultimate low be printed. I don't know. That's just what we're seeing here on this chart. Regardless, it's encouraging to see this metric grow up and to the right again, as it does indicate that we are starting to work our way through the thick of the bear. Also of note is that we have the same inverse pattern happening here. As explained here by Michael van de Poppe, we have here short-term holders of Bitcoin are selling aggressively. And if we switch to the next chart, what we see is the exact inverse, which is that we're seeing short-term holders are selling off, just like was the case throughout early 2018. And then short-term holders bought back in right as we turned bullish again in 2019 and turned bullish again here, almost in tandem exactly with the price of 2021. We also have experts claiming that the price is very near the bottom. Again, there's always experts claiming that we're about to pump and claiming that we're about to dump. Just because one expert or one group says one thing or another, that's not really that significant, and it doesn't always translate into price action. And I know it would be oh so poetic if the day after I make my first real bearish video, I guess 2 days after, we start to pump again. Look, nothing would make me happier about being wrong about this being a bearish or crabby market for the next few months. I would love nothing more than up and to the right, up only. You guys know that. I'm just prepared for what could be a long back and forth where there's hopeful rallies, and in the process, each time we get chopped down, Bitcoin gets crushed and the alts get crushed even harder. That's what happened throughout 2018. And so I just want to be prepared and not repeat the same mistakes that I made throughout that bear market. Again, nothing would make me happier than being wrong and seeing the market re-energize again, at which time having some capital on the sidelines would be incredibly useful, as opportunities for making profits would once again re-emerge by the handful. Now, that said, this Stack Funds group is drawing attention to the $2.3 billion options expiry, saying that this could bring a change of sentiment, and that there is no reason to flip bearish on BTC. Again, over 50% drawdown was definitely a trigger, as that was what caused the last collapse of Bitcoin. Regardless, what we know now is that the market's very uncertain, very undecided, yet there are some notable people buying the dip and pushing for it. A chart worth looking at that people have brought up a few times is the quarterly chart. Of course, the quarterly Bitcoin chart does look very pointy. Everyone was saying, hey, look, tops, blow off tops don't happen so slowly over time. Obviously, if you look at the quarterly chart, it really looks like there was just this giant pump and this giant dump. I don't think that's necessarily the fair way to look at the chart, though. Obviously, I do believe that quarterly charts are just too long of a period to call them a blow off top. But that said, people are passing around this chart. This is a more bearish take on things, saying that, hey, look, this was a huge rejection from that price level. Meanwhile, famed investor Cathie Wood has just bought 1 million shares of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust during the dip below 30,000, and that's according to CNBC. Again, Cathie Wood is, one of the leading investors pushing for alternative investments like Tesla, all kinds of disruptive technology investments. So this would be very encouraging if you're one of the Cathie Woods believers, one of the Cathie Woods supporters, ARK Invest. If you're a big fan of them, this could be a big bullish signal for you. Pretty much anything below 30,000 is being looked at by a lot of these big buyers as a steal. Now, I don't typically do this, but it's time today to cover a few of the memes. I call any chart pattern a meme because typically that's what they are, and they are usually oversimplified, and the reality of trading is usually much more complex. And this is what Big Dog Moon Overlord over here is claiming is in fact a meme. He says, if this meme actually happens, I will never, and I repeat, never buy Bitcoin back. This is of course indicates a price target of, 10,000 or so, meaning that the entirety of the 2021 bull run would be erased here with this head and shoulders. I personally don't see that happening. I see this as very low likelihood, but hey, we had to cover it because people are talking about this head and shoulders. Again, I wouldn't buy too much into the memes here. It's just way too oversimplified. That said, yet another meme, the Wyckoff meme, has just turned from a bearish indicator to a bullish indicator as we flipped from the distribution schematic here where we were bouncing back and forth, distributing as people were selling the top, to the Wyckoff bottom where people are accumulating before we move onwards and upwards. Again, as you can see, depending on which meme you choose, you either have the most bullish scenario or the most bearish scenario. And that's why in these middle grounds, it's really not that important to have a strong stance because the market is not giving clear indicators as to whether we are flipping bullish or going to move further down into bear territory. What's important to me, as I've said over the last few episodes, which is really just capital preservation, because if you're able to preserve your stack and at least make good moves once the market does turn on again, you will know when the market turns on. This doesn't happen like an on-off switch. There are typically weeks of lead time before things get really, really hot. So what matters most during these crazy times where we have these ups and downs and lefts and rights, and it's not so clear which direction the market's taking, it's just important that you keep watch. That's the absolute most important lesson of today's video, is that you don't look away, completely turn off from crypto, even if things are less stimulating, because then you'll miss those first early signals that the bull market is back on again, which we'll talk about what those signals are right at the end of the video. You're definitely going to want to watch this. Finally, we have FTX becoming an official sponsor of MLB. First, they bought the naming rights to the Miami Heat Arena in Miami. Then they actually sponsored an esports team, and now the MLB. FTX is becoming a wild sponsor of sports. Maybe there's something here with sports betting, sports gambling. Maybe they're coming after DraftKings. I don't know. It would be a very interesting thing to see what move they come up with next. All we know is that I wouldn't be betting against anything that old Sam is doing over there at FTX. He seems to know exactly what he's doing, and so I'm curious if there's a bigger vision here. Let me know in the comment section below what you think FTX is up to. And finally, one more setback on Bitcoin as the SEC delays a decision on the Valkyrie Bitcoin ETF. Again, an ETF I do believe is coming this year, but I guess just not yet. Again, delays are expected. Each ETF filing is given several periods where the SEC can choose to delay their actual ultimate decision making, and that's what's been happening time and time again with these SEC Bitcoin ETF rulings, is that they delay, and then eventually deny. Hopefully this time we get an approval at the end of a lengthy process once the new SEC has a time to settle in and really make a decision, although they did indicate they didn't want to regulate cryptocurrency this year, that it wasn't on their agenda. That doesn't preclude the possibility of a Bitcoin ETF. However, it very well might be them signaling that they won't be putting this into effect this year. So once again, we are in a wait and see market where there is plenty of evidence, plenty of memery, if you will, using chart patterns to suggest that we might be headed way lower or way higher. There's also quite a bit of accumulation by big, well-known investors as well as long-term holding wallets. Those bode very well for the future, but it does not preclude the possibility of a nasty nuke down, as we saw towards the end of 2018. So in my opinion, the best move is no move at all right now. Obviously, I have not sold any of my long-term positions, my big Bitcoin or Ethereum holdings, and I'm really just waiting to see where I can allocate capital for some gains, but the wind is not blowing in any clear direction yet. My clear indications that we were in a massive bull market that started in, June or May of 2020 was seeing things go 10x. Now, it doesn't have to be 10x, but for the most part, certain coins can easily pull a 2x, a 3x, sometimes even a 7x if it's a new coin with a lot of hype. But in reality, seeing multiple coins or coins from a specific sector pulling 10x's like we saw with DeFi, ETHLend that became Aave, well, those became a huge tip-off that we were in this new bold bull market. And that's why I'm looking for coins doing some dramatic growth, not just a 1x or a 2x, but some massive parabolic gains. And once you see some big gainers, you can say, hey, it looks like there is some bullishness in the trend once again. It's actually not that hard to spot, and there will be plenty of opportunities to deploy capital and make money once again once that bull trend resumes. I know personally there are just certain coins I never sell, long-term Bitcoin holdings being first, Ethereum being second, and in the case of those, I will be dollar cost averaging through this dip, adding a little bit to my Bitcoin and Ethereum holdings, but again, I still feel like there could be another nuke in our future, as I made clear on my video a couple days ago. And I want to reiterate, nothing Nothing on earth would make me happier than being wrong about bearish periods in crypto. I personally would love to be dead wrong about that and to have nothing but up and up only in the future. As you guys are learning, the crypto markets and their volatility are not for the faint of heart. And even I can be turned slightly bearish, at least temporarily, when the markets present what we're seeing right now, which is a lot of weakness. Regardless, I hope you guys keep paying attention, because paying attention can make you very, very rich in crypto land if you pay attention and time your moves properly. I sincerely hope that everybody watching this, if you missed out on the early stages of both the summer 2020 run as well as the early 2021 run, that you don't just turn off from crypto, that you keep watching and keep sizing up the right timing for the next bullish wave. With that said, if you guys got some value out of this, go ahead, smash that like button. Remember to subscribe and put those bell notifications on if you want more videos like this. My name's Elio Trades. You can find me on Twitter at Elio Trades. The link for that is in the description. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.